welcome. Give me a second, we're still having technical difficulties. Oh my gosh! Hello! Oh my, I'm sorry, I'm staring at the name. Sarita? Is it Sarita? What character was the little picture in my most recent video? The character art is all my rogue. I need Cat to save me. I'm still suppressed in the workshop channel, so I can't talk. Thank you! Oh. We'll go into this screen. Oh! Yay! Okay, I love getting names right. That's really important. And hello, too! And thanks, yeah, actually, I hate that I can't see people's names in Discord when I'm streaming because I'm trying to tell Cat who needs speaky permissions. I can't tell her what the Discord name is because I can't see it. I can stream, I just can't talk. This is good. Don't know what weapons they are. What weapon? Hold on. I'll be awkward and unfocused from the stream for a second. I think they're the Avarice ones, actually. Streamception, let's go. I still can't talk in the channel. Everything is fine. Oh, let's go. Oh, hold on. This channel? I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, let me try leaving. Coming back. Hello! Oh my gosh, okay, we made it. Hi, friends. So... welcome. It did work, yes. We love things working. So in a little bit, when we get through a little bit of presentation-y stuff, we'll all hop down to other channels just so that people can talk and ask questions and have a little bit more freedom with that. Until then, though, if you do have questions, you can either ask in Twitch chat or in the workshop's voice channel chat, or you can ask in the cleaning up your UI channel. All of those are gonna work. What time is it? 12:08? Oh, we will definitely be hopping in. I'm so late. So hi, welcome. We're gonna talk a little bit about UI because I think it's one of the most important things that you can have well produced in WoW, pretty much. It's gonna make a really big difference in how much you're able to accomplish, just because it'll change what you can see, what you know is happening. It can like completely turn around your awareness of the game. So we'll talk a little bit about, oh gosh, what we're gonna basically be doing with the workshop. So it's not just today, right? It's gonna be for the next 6 weeks. We're combining a couple of these guys into this first workshop. So today we're going to go through this introduction, and then we're going to talk about how to customize an LVUI profile, and then we're going to talk a little bit about group frames, so for party and raid and all of that. And we actually have Siri from Liquid here who's going to guest speak about raid frames and talk a little bit about how he approaches them and what is important at especially the very high level of WoW. Next couple workshops that we'll go through, we'll talk about bigwigs and not just what you can customize with bigwigs, but also what you can do with weak auras surrounding bigwigs. I also just had a thought that I have ads turned on my Twitch, and I really need them to not play for this workshop, so give me just a moment. I lost everything. Okay, sorry. There we go. So, going back into actual UI stuff, some of what we're going to talk about after bigwigs and weak auras that you can use with bigwigs is next worksheet. We're actually going to talk with Viscero, the creator of these timing sheets, and also just the MRT weak auras that can be attached to those timer sheets and all of that. Oh, sorry, like I said, I was trying to... I have to turn off my sounds for Discord. Streamer mode on. I had to turn it off to get Discord names. Okay, so with this Viscera sheets, we'll talk about how to use those during raid encounters to set up your timers, reminders, not just for your whole raid team and healing notes that a lot of us are familiar with, but you can actually use them as an individual raider to work on different aspects of your UI and reminders throughout fights. After that, we'll go into talking about cooldown tracking for your group. So there's a lot of different versions of that available, whether it'll be OmniCD using MRT tracking, or even just using weak auras to track different cooldowns from your group. After that, we'll go into HUDs, so how to personalize a heads-up display, and how to actually take one of these packs that you'll find on Wago and make it a little bit closer to what you want to see. And then the final one, we've already done a little bit of a plater profile workshop, but it got lost, so we don't have a VOD, so we're going to re-record that one and go through again how to look at your nameplates and your plater profile. So, getting right into UI, different things that are important to think about as you're getting into it. What do you need to see? And what do you want to see? And what are you not going to look at? Those are the top 3 things that you really want to consider. Once you figure out what you need on your UI, we want to look at different... Sorry. I have technical difficulties all the time. Thank you for that, Katie. So what are the best formatting options for those? So there's a lot of different ways everything that you put on your screen can look, whether it's a weak aura that you can do in a model, a texture, a progress bar, or an icon. as well as just basically everything has different formats that you can use. Also, things like sight versus sound is going to be part of that. And then, are there any special considerations for you personally with your UI? Whether it's things like disabilities or reaction time, anything like that, very important to think about. And then, obviously, what aesthetics do you like is going to be something that you're going to be looking at this every time you play the game. You want it to be something you enjoy looking at. Going a little bit further into depth on these, some of the things that you need and want to see. Obviously, your target frames, your group frames as well. Boss frames can be super helpful, but some people never use them, and so if you're never going to use them, maybe they don't need to be on your UI. Things like buffs and debuffs, and how you're going to look at that information. You do need to see a lot of your buffs and debuffs, but maybe you don't need to see that you have the weekly buff that gives you extra XP when you do dungeons or time walking. Or maybe you don't necessarily need to know when you have a raid buff, you only need to know when it's missing. Things like that. You need to have your rotational information, so spells, cooldowns, whether that's a weak aura packet or individual weak auras, or you use your action bars, no matter what you do, need to see that. Then you have your resources, kind of goes along with that, combo points, energy, mana, things, chi, things like that. And then on the other side, we have more group play oriented things, so your timers, reminders, boss mods, your group cooldowns, your damage meters, your chat even is part of the consideration here, and then obviously nameplates as well. Things that you don't need on your UI. Things like having 7,000 details windows, having big long list weak auras that cover your screen up so that you can't see what's happening. Any kind of duplicate information. Sometimes there's going to be a reason for duplicate information if it's something that's very important, but generally you don't want multiple forms of information telling you the same thing. You don't need 3 different weak auras for your defensive, that kind of thing. Floating combat text is a personal pet peeve of mine. You don't need it. It can be super nice to see your big crits, and there are ways to edit your floating combat text with different add-ons, so that it's not just a bunch of numbers throwing up all over your screen all the time. A lot of people who use the default floating combat text, you have every single damage instance throws up a number. Every single healing instance throws up a number, either in the middle of your screen where it's covering things up, or over your player frame so that you can't actually see your health or any other information there. Floating combat text gets enabled on farm is a solid option for that once you have a lot of a better understanding of where all your mechanics are going to come from, so that you can look at that. Other people's pertinent information is not necessarily something that you need to be looking at all the time. So obviously there's going to be an exception there for someone like a raid leader. If you're raid leading, or if your raid leader is raid leading off of your POV, you're going to have a lot more information on your UI than you otherwise would. And then anything that makes the situation harder to understand, and anything that you don't ever look at. With that one, even if it's theoretically good information, like say you're a DPS in raid and you have all of your healers cooldowns showing, that is technically good information, but if you never look at it, you never use it, then there's no reason that it's on your screen taking up space. For formatting options, some of the different things that we can consider is 1, location. If something is more important for you to look at, it should be closer to the middle of your screen. Um, Hopefully that's pretty obvious for everyone. You're generally looking towards your character most of the time. Um, an example for this is a lot of healers have their raid frames centered in some way, but not a lot of DPS players do, because as a DPS, your raid frames are a lot less important and impactful for you. Second is sizing. If something is really important, you want it to be big and very noticeable. Third, sight versus sound. Um, Sound can be more abrasive, meaning it'll grab your attention better, but it also immediately goes away. And so if you are unable to process it quickly, that can mean that you just missed out on that sound cue altogether. Um, Also, with that, being deaf, hard of hearing, or colorblind are all going to have big factors, all going to have big effects on what your UI ends up looking like. Um, and then the last one we talked a little bit about before, what form are your weak auras going to take, whether it's an icon, a bar, just text, or a texture, or a model. And everything like that is going to be a little bit different. For aesthetics, this is a lot more personal than a lot of the other things with UI. First, though, cleanliness is always going to be better in a UI, just because you need glance value and clarity when you're trying to figure out like what's going on in a tough pull, in a tough spot of your encounter. If you have a bunch of things on your screen and you can't really tell what they're telling you and they're overlapping, it's always just going to make your life harder. Um, Space efficiency can be a really big thing. I myself have like an ultra wide monitor, and so it's a lot easier for me to put information that I may not look at a lot over to the side where it isn't covering anything. If you play on like a laptop or something with a much smaller screen, that's going to be a lot more of a big deal. You're going to have to make more decisions on what to cut so that you actually have space to see the environment around you. Um, Third thing is consistency through specs and classes. Do you care, like, if you play a healer, a tank, and a DPS, you play all three roles, do you care if your UI looks different from role to role? A lot of people who play tanks have their health bar a lot more centered than people who are playing DPS, and a lot of healers that I know don't even have their player frame because they're always looking at their group frames anyway. So, would having those things be different in each spec bother you or not? That's something to think about. And then clarity from contrast just means that anything that contrasts more with the general feel of your UI is going to draw your attention, and it's going to be where you have space to do notifications that are more important. Um, and then quality of life add-ons are great, whether it's bug grab and bug sack are going to be awesome for catching your Lua errors. A lot of different key timers are out there, whether it's an add-on or a weak aura, so that you can change the aesthetic of that. Basically everything that you have on your UI in WoW can look a million different ways, and you just get to decide which one works for you. So we're going to actually look at some UIs and some of the things that make them more or less understandable. So I'm sure a lot of us have watched Blaison, and he's a really fun streamer to watch. We're gonna look at his UI a little bit. So there's a lot happening here, and this is just gonna be some examples of factors in your UI that can make it more or less clear. So a couple of things here. We'll start on the left, top left. We have his MRTino is to the side. It's not super big. It scrolls through combat. That's generally really good because it means it's going to take up less space but still notify you when important things are happening. Coming over here, we have a large weak aura that's covering a lot of the screen here. For this one in particular, this is a Rashok screenshot, and so this is a healing absorb. His frames here are already showing this healing absorb. So this comes into that duplicate information area where when you have all your healing absorbs shown on the party frames anyway, you don't necessarily need this weak aura, and especially on this fight, any waves that come in here are going to be blocked because of the long list. There's more large weak auras. This one here is another duplicate information. This is notifications for what cooldowns are going to be used. This is again showing in the ERT note, and for most people, again, he is raid leading, so it's a little bit different, but for most people, seeing everyone else's cooldowns that are supposed to be pressed is not going to be particularly helpful for you. Moving over, enemy nameplates here. He actually has a really clean nameplate format. The only thing with this one is that it shows some information that you don't necessarily need. For example, he's a monk and it's showing Mystic Touch. As a monk, everything you hit will have Mystic Touch, and so having that information on your nameplates just becomes redundant and one more thing that your brain has to filter out. There's a lot of stuff overlapping, which is never good because it means that you don't actually get to see everything. His rotational information is all here, but there is, again, some redundancies with multiple weapons of order, weak auras, and then there's kind of just things in a lot of different places so that it's harder to focus into what is important. A lot of different things going on here as well. Raid cooldowns getting covered by your battle res tracker. So, you know, some things that are easy enough to work on to just clear up the field of view so that you have a better way of looking at what's happening around you. We're going to look at a different UI now. This is actually Acros. He's part of the LWIW mentor team. This is going to be what a lot more of our UIs tend to be. There's some things that are really efficient and some things that aren't so much. So this is kind of what I was talking about with the floating combat text, where all of these numbers, like this 26 could be very fun to see, but a lot of these other numbers, they're just covering up information on the floor. Some other things that are going on here that are really good. He has a lot of important tracking that's out of the way where he can look at it without necessarily having it in his field of view all the time. So things like that. He has his innervate and PI shown to the side so that he can look at them when he needs to, but not necessarily have them blocking anything. He does have some duplicated defensive tracking here, which is not always ideal. Having it just in one place where you know you can look at it and you will look at it is probably going to be better. Another thing here is boss frames. Boss frames can be super helpful, or they can be something that you never look at. If you never look at them and you never use them, it's probably going to be better to just disable them, which in LVUI you can do. I'm not 100% sure about the default Blizzard UI if you can actually just remove them entirely. But having like important debuffs up there, I don't know a whole lot about priests, so obviously I'm not going to talk on that, but things like if you're a resto druid, just Moonfire, having that so that you can always see it super easily no matter what's happening on your raid frame can be fun. Having your details out of the way. And then another thing that neither Blason or Acro have is friendly nameplates, which can be, again, super helpful in especially raiding environments, to be able to see who needs help getting into an appropriate position or who is out of position, or even things like who's targeted with certain abilities. Finally, we're going to go into series UI. So for this one, obviously, everything is a lot cleaner. There's a lot less stuff going on, which means that everything that is on this UI is there for a reason, and it's telling some kind of important information. There isn't really anything here that's just there to be there. So we're going to talk about his party frames with him in a little bit here, but you can see that they're all very crystal clear. It's very obvious who is missing health. It's very obvious who's shielded or debuffed. He also has a cursor. I don't know if it's an add-on or what, but it makes it, this blue thing here is his cursor, so that's super easy to see as well. YOLO mouse. Okay, so YOLO mouse makes his cursor very easy to see, especially for mousing over. That's going to be super helpful. He also has this, what's it called? Simulated widescreen thing going on. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it does give all of this extra space down here for things like raid cooldowns details windows that aren't actually going to cover anything that's going on in his player character space. Color-coded bigwigs timers are also going to be super helpful, especially as a healer. He knows exactly how long until XYZ happens. It's really easy for glance value. If you have each important mechanic in a different color, you don't actually have to read anything in order to find out what's happening next or how soon. You can just glance over, oh, okay, blue is closing in. It means that the mass disintegrate's coming up, and it's just very clear and easy to see. So, with that, that's going to be the end of the PowerPoint presentation. And so talking a little bit about what do you want in your UI? After looking at a couple of those things, what do you think is important? And what do you actually want to see and want to use from there? So I think the next thing we want to do is go into a little bit of how you can change how your UI looks. So I'm getting asked if it would be best to send UIs in and get opinions. We are going to do that in just a little bit when we break off into smaller groups. Before we do that, I want to go through a little bit of the different features that you can use for ElvUI to change the appearance of everything. And then I also want to go through and talk a little bit about raid and party frames. And then we'll break off and go into individual UIs. So some things about ElvUI or your default UI in general are going to be, number one thing is learning how to move and resize everything. So in ElvUI, when you go into the option panel, there's a toggle anchor buttons that's super helpful. It lets you drag everything around your screen, and along with this, you can actually right click and it'll pull up all of the options for that particular piece of your unit frame, whether it's your buffs, your action bars. It'll just really easily pull up settings for that so that you can go in and change it. Some purely aesthetic things for ElvUI. In media and cosmetic, you can actually change the, I guess, vibe of your whole UI by changing different colors. So like you can see with mine right now, it's a purple and blue vibe. You can change that in ElvUI, and it'll just alter a lot of the colors there. For your action bars, looking at different things like, do you need your action bars somewhere you can see them? Do you want them to be mouse overed? Do you want them to be out of the way? Are you a pet class and need easy access to your pet bar? Or are you, say, a druid and need easy access to your stance bar? Different things like that. Next one would be buffs and debuffs. Talking about our default in WoW is to have buffs in the upper right and then debuffs right below them. that's usually not somewhere that you're going to be looking. And so either pulling out your important buffs with weak auras, or pulling out your important buffs with something else that just will make them a lot easier to look at and to notice. With debuffs, an easy way to do it is, instead of having all of your debuffs showing in one big block by your minimap, you can use in LVI the player frame or target frame debuff options. And you can actually go through, show where they are, and have them a little bit closer to your field of view. And with that, you have filters in LVI where you can filter out exactly which debuffs you want to appear there, which buffs you want to appear there, as opposed to having just all of them all the time. We talked a little bit about how chat also matters, figuring out how big you want your chat and where you can put it that's out of the way. In LVI, there's also options to hide your chat during combat. And so considering if that could be something useful for you. Okay, cool. That's kind of everything there. So now we want to go into player frames. So I'm actually going to pull back up series UI here. And do you want to just talk a little bit about what you look for in raid frames? I think you use grid, correct? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. For debuffs, I noticed that you have, like in this screenshot specifically, you have your debuffs showing as icons, but then you also have your color debuffs. What is the logic there? Is it just dispellable ones, or is it other important debuffs? Or how would you go about deciding? Mhm.
Become awkward when you have multiple debuffs on the same person. So like in this phase, it's only the dispellable debuff. It is a little bit awkward that both show up, but
Yeah.
it's also like pretty much the only important thing that you really want to track in this phase. The reason that I do it is it's much easier to see or like to notice when someone gets a debuff like that. And for some of them, you might want to react very, very quickly. So looking for a tiny little icon that one out of 20 players has on your right frames is pretty difficult, especially when you're trying to pay attention to other things in the fight as well. So something like this is much more noticeable even in your peripheral vision. And one thing that allows me to do that is also that my raid frames are solid color rather than having everything be class colored. Having class colored raid frames is fine. Like, it is very important to know which class everyone is, because there's a very, very big difference in the amount of healing that, say, a warlock versus a hunter require. But I chose to just have their names be class colored, which is harder to identify. but it does allow me to use colors on my frames for other things like debuffs.
That makes a
And
lot of sense as well.
yeah,
With
it's
that, I was gonna ask, how often do you um, make decisions based on class where that would be super important?
um, I mean, it's quite often, I would say, like, especially when it comes to external usage. I say a big raid hit is coming up on a fight like Rashok. Um, I mean, usually you don't get to that point anymore, but in the last phase, his slams would start hitting quite hard to the point where they might even one shot. And for those kinds of mechanics, I do specifically look for certain classes and see if they're using their personal, and if they don't, I tend to external them. Let's say like priests, evokers, hunters, those are all relatively squishy if they don't have a personal up. Shamans as well, druids potentially. And then the
Okay.
same thing is like, let's say two people are low. One is a warlock, one is a hunter. The hunter usually needs is more in need of your attention than the warlock would be.
That is true, very true. um, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was your opinions on um, placement and sizing of raid frames. So having them, yours are obviously bottom centered, but there are a lot of healers who do like the mid right or mid left raid
Right.
frames.
Yeah, I've tried both to varying degrees, and having the raid frames on your side, I find it easier keeping track of my character. At, well, and like I find it easier to move my character and like change camera position when the raid frames are on the side. However, the downside is that they tend to take up way more of the in-game playing area. Having them at the bottom, because that's like where the camera is coming from, takes up less space, assuming that they're the same size, which in turn would also allow you to have larger raid frames when you have them at the bottom versus having them on the sides. So the reason that I went for having raid frames at the bottom is that I like having them relatively large so I can display a lot of information on them. And also I found that having them on the sides just took up way too much space, and for me that was very uncomfortable. But it's not inherently better or worse having them on the sides versus bottom. I just potentially like I would recommend to just try out both and see which is more comfortable for you.
Do you think that, and so this is something that I started doing as a healer because when I heal, I play with my raid frames on the side. Um, and my logic for that was that I wanted to have them close to where my mouse generally rests to eliminate the amount of time to actually get my mouse over a raid frame and cast a heal on them. Do you think that that's something that should be more of a get used to having your mouse wherever your frames generally are, or do you think that that is something that's worth considering too?
Yeah, it's something that I've struggled with in the past as well. Um, One solution that I found is you can actually make your raid frames click through. So if you wanted to move your character or turn your camera, you don't actually have to move your cursor to your character. You can just click through your raid frames. Um, I know Voodoo does offer that option. Grid doesn't, but you can use other add-ons and macros to make it work.
Um,
So in my case, I'm just using click, and there's a certain macro that makes my raid frames click through.
gotcha. Yeah, I actually am familiar with that one. Other than raid frames, do you actually have anything else that you have found to be super helpful just with your UI in general? Or any other comments, anything like that?
Um, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the things already earlier. I mean, there are some like minor details, I guess, like having externals close to your raid frame so that that you can easily click them or innovate as well. But
Mhm.
then that depends on whether your guild is actually using a weak or a, for calling them.
Yeah, because it'll all
So,
just depend on that as well.
well, another thing that's like important for raid frames is debuff tracking. A lot of people just show all of the debuffs by default, and I think that's very bad because there are so many debuffs, especially in raids, that don't matter, where the entire raid just gets the same debuff, and you don't need to have that icon on all 20 of your frames. Becomes a
Do
lot of
you
clutter.
individually whitelist weakers for raid then, or do you use some kind of auto
Debuffs.
assignment?
So that depends on the add-on as well. For Voodoo, you can. When I used to use Voodoo, I had everything whitelisted by default. So every debuff would show, and then whenever I encountered a debuff that I didn't want to track, I had there's a keyboard shortcut that you can set to ignore debuff. So you just press that button combination, click on the debuff icon, and it would automatically blacklist. However, not every add-on has that feature. So Grid in this Grid, which I'm using right now, does not have that, and I do actually whitelist every single debuff. However, there is a feature that Grid has, which is when you create a debuff indicator, there's a
Mhm.
preset like raid debuffs list, which just has like every boss for every raid and dungeon. Like there's
With
a table that
just
has like
the
every debuff for every boss.
oh,
The issue is like the default list is not complete most of the time, so you would have to go
you have
through
to
every
go
single
through and
boss,
add
and
in more things.
yeah, sometimes the spell IDs also don't fit the difficulty you're doing as well.
Fun, fun, fun. Little spaghetti code for the boys.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely a downside to using Grid versus Voodoo, or I think LVI also allows the same thing as Voodoo, where you can automatically
blacklist.
ignore certain
Yeah.
debuffs.
Okay. Before we get into our recap and then looking at some individual UIs, does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns? Uh, Okay, so looking at Omni CD in RAID showing externals, we'll talk a lot more about that in the actual group cooldown tracking portion of the workshop. I broke it up because I mostly didn't want all of our workshops to go multiple hours. And so a lot of things are gonna come through one at a time. And a lot of specifically add-on uh, options will come through at that time just to make sure that we don't, you know, go forever in each workshop. So we will get there and we will talk about it. There's another question. When not using LVUI, you can somewhat control your buffs in the top right by clicking the arrow, but generally using a weak or a pack to track debuffs is really good. Yes, okay. I can't actually tell who that was because streamer mode only calls you L. But I think that's a really good point as well, just that with base UI, which I don't know if I can actually show, but with base UI, there is an option to hide non-important debuffs and buffs with the new edit mode, but I don't think there's any way to manually change which debuffs and buffs count as important versus unimportant. So generally finding a weak or a pack or making your own weak or a buffs is going to be more helpful. I think the next thing to do, we have a couple people with UIs to look at, and so I want to break into some smaller groups, and just go through. I'll keep streaming the small group that I'm leading, but go through in groups, like pick someone's UI and look at it and kind of talk a little bit about like, hey, this is my UI. These are some things that I just noticed that maybe I want to change or I don't love, or I like that it's doing this, but I don't necessarily love how. Um, so with that, I don't know if there's a good, easy way to do this other than just everyone pick a channel and we'll end up in small groups that way. Instead of trying to like assign different people to groups, I think is just a lot of work here. So, who do I have? I'm gonna let's do it this way. I'll hop down to uh, what channels do we have? I guess we'll use Event Lounge and the two mentorship channels. So I'll hop down to Event Lounge and then Trevor, can you go to mentorship 1 and then maybe Kat, if you're feeling spicy, we can go to mentorship 2, or if you're not and we just want to do the two groups, then we can do that as well, and then we can all action talk. Any break.
Hello.
Wow, no one wants.
Oh, what?
Or maybe we just all come together. That could also work, depending on how many we have.
Sorry, I'm just here to watch.
So
Many
I'm sharing
quacks.
the screen of
Ooh.
my UI. I'm trying to get into an LFRQ
To look at some actual context. Okay.
have
How do I
them
want it?
not
This?
overlapping. And I'm also tracking Mystic Touch, like you said, is bad.
It's not necessarily bad. It's just that it's extra information that is very unimportant 99% of the time.
Do I disable that? Mystic
Um,
Touch.
so for your, if you use LVUI nameplates, it would be in the filters here. So I think you have, let me actually find it online as well, because I generally don't use LVUI nameplates. But there's basically a filters page for LVUI that will you'll be able to whitelist and blacklist different debuffs.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I remember doing that when I made my UI.
Enemy NPC. Okay, yeah, so you'd go to you'd go to nameplates, and then enemy NPC debuffs, scroll all the way down, and then click where it says filters page, to the right there, and then select filter, and it would be blacklist, and then you would add a spell ID for Mystic Touch, which I don't actually know the spell ID for Mystic Touch off the top of my head. That's just going to remove spells from the blacklist on that drop down.
One 113-746.
Thank you.
disabled it, so that should do it. Let's see. Nope, still showing.
Do you have mouse overs on where you can mouse over? My assumption is that it's just a weird spell ID for it.
Yeah, I
Let me
do
actually
have-
get on my monk and figure it out.
Yeah, I can turn on debuffs. Unit frames. Visual unit, target. Debuffs enable. 113. I killed it too fast.
113746.
Yeah.
Champion, may I have a word with you?
I think that's what they said. Maybe I did it wrong. 3746, yeah. I clicked disable here.
Too far away.
I think I did it weird when I added it though. Maybe that's what the problem
So
was.
the blacklist filter. Oh, it could also be go into your back into your nameplate settings really quick. No filter. It is first priority for your filter.
Stasis consumed.
I think I made personal because I wanted to track. We were having an issue with our demon hunter and our guild not putting their debuff on
Their
one of the
debuff
bosses.
on all of the bosses, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to track it, so I added it, but I don't remember where I did it. And while I was in there, I just added Mystic Touch.
If you added it in individually, it might be in one of the other filters.
I can see personal in here. Player buffs, maybe. Create the buff. I don't know. I'll play with it. I don't want to take up too much time.
Does anyone else have?
Yeah,
Oh.
sure.
Sure. Yeah, you wanna go for it? All right.
I go for it. So basically, I just search for another. Okay, wait till you join. I mean, I'm basically very satisfied with my UI, but I don't
It is
know.
clean.
I mean, this bit here is vanishing inside the dungeon, right?
Yeah. And so it's
And
gonna clear up a lot more space for you.
yeah, I'm just wondering where I could take this weak aura differently than there. I know it's basically a good position because it's outside of the center or not in the center, so it doesn't
Um,
clunch
have
up
that-
base I'm looking at, but yeah.
I have that same aura, and I have it in the bottom right.
Yeah, but I have
yeah,
action
okay.
bars
you
here.
get all your action
Yeah.
bars.
Yeah, sure. Because I'm basically, as I wrote on Twitch, I know my basic rotation stuff where all this shit is. I mean, that's opening because of target dummy. I can basically completely fight my way without having to look on the action bars, or because it's just by heart right now for every of my class or character because I play every character. Oh, every class, I mean, not every character. But basically, there are some stupid things who I do click from the action bar. So that's why they are still active. I mean, I
Still
could could make them non-active, but yeah, I still have some stuff on the bars. I just press
Where do
like.
your party frames show with this?
That's a good question. Hello. I'm still
It's because
inside.
you're
No?
still in combat.
Okay, let's vanish. No.
Um,
Hello. Hello. Huh?
hmm.
Okay,
Viserys
I do a quick log relog.
relog. Viserys
Yeah.
talking about either scaling down your action bars so that you still have them all there, but since you're not looking at them actively anyway, they don't actually have to be that big, that large. You can have them scale down, and then the couple things that you don't have keybound yet, you can make, say, just that action bar a little bit larger so that when you go to click things like putting on your poisons, it's still easy enough to do that. But everything that you have bound, you can make pretty tiny and not have it affect your gameplay at all.
Fun fact: I do not need to have my poisons on any action bar stuff or like that because I got a weak aura for it. A
Yeah, see?
clickable weak aura.
There you go.
Oh.
So you can
Yeah,
just
like I can just show it. I can remove all these poisons. Then this pops up, and I just can
yeah.
click this, and yeah, she
So
applies it.
anything like that, right? Where if you don't need to like actually be using the action bar, you can just make it super tiny.
Yeah,
And that
that's
would free up
interesting.
some
Yeah,
space.
at least those main action bars could be downscaled. Yeah, that's okay. Things frames, party frames.
Sarah, with the
Eh.
hotkey, is it just them
Yeah, it's
being
here.
visible
Party
versus
frame is here
non-visible?
with the
Or
different
is it
cooldowns of the
does it actually
target.
get rid of
Not
them so
target.
that they're
Oh,
not
it's
there even
weird
if you
when
like
you're not in
mouse over it
a
and everything?
group to show it. You know.
Yeah. You can
Yeah.
actually hit display frames in your unit frame options. So if you go to unit frames and then group units,
Yeah.
yeah, and then party.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
No,
so
that's
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 that's your
definitely not
arena.
correct. Okay. Oh my god. Where can I disable this?
So and then if you go to party and then display them. Okay.
I mean, I mainly play DPS, so it's not that important where they are.
Yeah. So you have all of the space over your damage windows too that you can play with.
Yeah, but there is my tooltip, and I think it's a bit weird, you know, when something is under the tooltip.
Under the tooltip. That's fair, and
Yeah.
that's like a what am I trying to say? Personal preference thing too.
Yeah, yeah.
You also always have the option to make pretty much anything that you don't look at smaller. So things like your tooltip, if you wanted that to not take up so much space, you can go through and make those smaller as well.
Yeah. And yeah, and then of course I have my heal. I will just change to the healer. It's the easiest way, I guess. But I don't. But I don't know. Yeah, what I could improve there, you know. Because it's working, but
Yeah.
something's off. I don't know.
I think what do you find is like the main problem? Because you don't have a lot of stuff covering up space to be able like so that you can still see everything that's going on, which is like the number one like first step for working on your UI is making sure that you can actually see the play field. So you do have that going already. So the next questions would be like, what do you want your UI to do that it's not doing?
Yeah, I think many people told me that you have to have voodoo to do good healing and blah blah blah. Yeah, but wait.
So the thing that you'll have to do for healing is you really want to have some kind of mouse over healing. Voodoo is
Yeah,
by no
that
means the only way to do that.
yeah,
Um,
I have this with just the macros, you know. So
yeah,
let's see.
doing
There's
them
I can't heal him. He's bored. Yeah.
doing
I
them
mean,
with macros or another there's a add-on called Clique that
yeah.
lets it pretty much does everything that a macro will do, but it's a lot easier to set up than making the individual macros.
I mean, that's basically my healer party frame here.
Yeah, and so as long as they show everything that you need them to show, I think that's great.
Basically, I only activated it, or I don't know if you have to activate it, or it just only shows debuffs. I can actually this here, what's it called?
Detox. Yeah.
Yeah. Disable, but no, it's not disable. Remove from the friendly target. Other debuffs aren't shown, but I don't know if it's not a dumb thing to do, because sometimes you have stuff you have to know that are on the target, you know. So maybe blah blah blah, mob X does a debuff that does, I don't know, Brazilian damage, and you can't dispel it, but you still have to know it's on some of your people, you know.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to do that. The way that I have it set up, because I also use LVY frames for healing, is I have dispellable debuffs color the frame, and then I have non-dispellable debuffs show as the icon. So that could be an option in playing with your color coding. So that would be in the colors part of LVI. So up at like you're in unit frames, and then right now you're in the group units. 2 to the left is colors, and then it's auras highlight. So the second one down.
Yeah.
And then it will do those, and you can change the colors there. And there's a way to.
I think no, now I get it. Like the icon
Yeah.
is bluish now, or the border of it is bluish.
So the border of that will do, but the other thing that you can do with it is you can turn the entire nameplate that color. And I'm trying to.
No,
It
not that.
should. I'm trying to remember where exactly the option is to turn on the colors, because I thought it was on by default, but it's actually really interesting that yours don't already.
Yeah, just the whole bar isn't what is it called? It's not glowing the color, you know. It's just that I have those little icons from the debuff, and then yeah, I can choose to dispel or choose not to dispel, of course. But yeah, it would be nice to show the ones I can dispel differently.
Find the option again. Just a moment. Oh, we can duel. I can duel someone, and that will. Then I can get a debuff on me.
I would say duel me, but that's not working.
Yeah, I'm tag teaming in.
And always remember to hydrate.
Remember to hydrate. Yeah, something I d-
I hate
It's
that
important.
so much.
I'm sorry. Sometimes there's just the little things that make you happy, you know?
But if you drink something, will the message vanish? No, right?
No, it won't. I forgot I was doing old content, so I'm not wearing any armor.
Sheesh.
I was trying to do glory achievements for Legion.
Ah, I see. You have to auto attack and not one shot people.
Yeah.
Or stuff, not people, but stuff. I understand that. Damn.
You're on EU servers, I would assume. Is that
Yeah.
real? Is anyone else here on EU servers?
Hello
Nope.
from hello from Germany.
Oh. I went there last
Oh
summer.
ho.
Oh, I went there last summer and I
Yeah, where were you? Where were you? Yeah.
oh gosh.
Where did you stay?
We went and saw all of sorry. It was like a 6-week like 10 country trip. So I'm a little
I see.
but we went and saw all of the castles.
In
From
Bavaria, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were at Schloss Neuschwanstein?
Yes.
The Disney
I did not
Pixar
attempt
castle.
to exactly.
Where all the Asian people with their cameras beep 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 beep.
I was the one with the camera.
Would you like me to see if anyone in the other channel is on EU?
I just maybe cuz it's going to be hard to tell if anything we do with frames is actually working for when we don't, and I can't think of an easy mob that definitely gives you a debuff at the moment.
Yeah, same. I was thinking the same actually, but are there any weird
I can ask them.
mobs?
Yeah.
Hello, do you do something weird to me, please? Some debuff? Come on, morning guy. Okay, they're not hitting me. That's the problem. Let's see.
They just miss. Where the heck is?
There we go, EU player.
Oh,
New player.
hello. We're trying to test frames with debuffs, and it is very hard to get a debuff on yourself on purpose. So we were hoping you would be willing to duel on a character that can put debuffs on someone.
Yeah, I have a rogue, should work.
Yay!
Tell me who I can inf.
I'll put a name in chat.
Yeah. Just tell me where you posted it in the Twitch channel.
In the event launch channel.
I pray
This-
they
Yeah, sure.
Ensure the eggs are safe and eliminate any threat on these sacred grounds.
I am monkey. Okay, you're okay. I can do, but I can switch to hard.
Oh, you're alliance?
It's okay. Yeah, I'm changing to hard. I have max character shit going on.
Oh, we could also go arm boots.
I'm already changing character, so it's fine. It's very fine.
Where do you want me to go to?
I'm actually right now in the garrison, but I have to check where my Hearthstone takes me. Because it's a level 60 char, you know.
Alex Straza charged us with protecting the life pools from the primalists. I pray they
So
have not infiltrated
go
too
easy
deeply.
on me because
Ensure
you're
the eggs
instantly
are safe
winning the
and
duel
eliminate
otherwise.
any threat on these sacred grounds.
I'll take off some gear.
Yeah, it's just important to hit me with some poison. Maybe bleed. Blah blah blah. Okay, I'm going to Ogrima, I guess.
Convoke the spirit.
My allies sacrificed themselves so that I could return these eggs to their natural state. I will not fail!
This is miserable. I just want to get to the dragon. I need to be not healing spec so I can do damage so that I can get... I realize the...
Flourish.
Can we even duel in Ogrima? I don't know.
That should be possible. You never know.
You have to go right
No.
You
outside.
might have to go south of Ergamar, just in that area.
Yeah, they don't actually
yeah.
let you duel in
Not
the
allowed.
city.
You will not interfere!
Also, this is very disgusting. You see how the name and the level is not in the
Oh! I can show you how to fix that. Yeah.
things, please. Yeah, here.
So
the frame.
for that, you would go to... It won't change the font size. It'll just make it shorter so that not all of the... So like for him, or for her, you'd see bone P, probably. But you can go into...
Oh, yeah. 1 second. That's a rejection.
I don't know, it's not working. I can't request a duel. Can you
No,
try?
I have auto reject on. 1 second, I'll turn it off.
Ah, okay. Yeah, just or you just can. Or do.
Yeah, there it is.
$58 HP. Oh. Yeah, I have a debuff on now, and it's
So-
not showing anything. Now I have a dispellable on me, and it shows it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably enabled show dispellable only.
So what it looks like is that you have raid debuffs enabled, but
Okay.
not regular debuffs.
Maybe in buffs and debuffs, or
No, it'd be
Go
in
to your
unit frames.
then to your either your player or party, on which one you want to show them,
yeah, party.
and then go to debuffs, and then scroll down.
They are not even enabled.
Yeah,
Enable them,
so-
that definitely helps. Party, I think by default they have only
The raid
Okay,
debuffs
yeah, we
that
can
show.
just check
yeah.
again, right? I can heal myself up, and we check again.
there's
I
two
mean, yeah.
different debuffs that it shows. One is raid debuffs and the other is normal debuffs. And by default only the raid debuffs are disabled. Enabled.
Okay. Hit me again on a guy. Okay, it's still not showing.
So
Okay,
the reason for that is
need to play
the
outside.
it's the type of debuff, right? So I was muted. That makes so much more sense. The reason that it won't show is because you have the debuff that is there is not necessarily impactful, and so it's already on one of the like lists to not show. So the reason that
So by
like she was
default-
saying,
Yeah. So by
with-
default, it only shows the important debuffs, right?
yeah. And so the way that it does that, like she was saying, is it has the raid debuffs and then debuffs as two separate pieces, and so raid debuffs will be typically the very important ones, but I think that the reason that you wouldn't get the color change is because your like normal debuffs, non-raid debuffs, weren't enabled, so try just having them enabled and then get something dispellable and see if it'll slightly change the color.
In color now, right? Or what?
So
I
those will
didn't
be the colors
really
that it goes on,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
should
it's
only show if you can dispel that thing.
The exposed
okay.
light folds are in great
Try
danger.
to poison me.
A powerful primalist is attempting to burn all the
Just
nesting
with a
eggs.
shift,
You
alright?
must
Yeah.
clear them to get to
Oh,
her.
what the fuck?
I will keep watch
Huh?
from above while I confront the
Why do I
dragon
have
who
now
is
those?
leading this assault.
Oh,
Huh?
Okay, I won my very first duel on this character.
Nice.
let's go.
No problem.
100% win rate.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
You
think
s-
that's
you
why
saw
the debuffs are not enabled by default, because Elf UI, I think, mainly PvE oriented. So if you enable the raid debuffs, that one will show things like bursting, magical debuffs that you can dispel. Or if you cannot dispel them, it won't show them.
yeah,
Stuff like
yeah.
that.
But
Very important stuff.
the debuffs weren't enabled, right? So I just enabled them and they did show here now. But what is the other debuff I can then? From
Can
where?
you,
Yeah.
it's the small one, that was the raid debuffs. So if in the list you scroll down a little bit. That one. And this one is show dispellable debuffs. So yeah, it depends on the filters you have configured there.
Oh my god. Pew. Yeah, okay, lol. I didn't even know that was the thing. That is divided into raid debuffs and normal debuffs. You know.
Yeah, and
It
I
is.
think the debuffs are what change the color of your frames if you want that enabled.
Okay, wait. I have to do this. What is 26? What's the size? I guess. That's why it was shown so big. I didn't even know it was a different font size.
There should be an option to view the debuffs, like not sure if it's display frames, but
It is, or there's a separate.
No,
now you can
yeah,
preview them and customize them.
I see. 501.
So right now the ones coming out from the right of the frames are the debuffs, and the one bottom center are the raid debuffs. So you could put the debuffs like underneath maybe, unless you have Omni CD show up there or something.
Oh no. I can. Wait. Can't I attach them like the normal debuff, like the raid debuffs, the normal debuffs? Isn't that possible?
You can, but then they will overlap. Unless you disable the raid debuffs.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess maybe that's okay underneath because there is nothing, you know. I guess that's all right underneath. Because I don't have to see the exactly number or status of the power from the assigned class or something. Ergo energy, focus, or mana or something like that. Because I have my mana bar and I don't care about mana from other classes, stuff like that.
You can actually disable power bars for other classes, I think.
You can. The way that I have it set up is I show only power bars for certain things. There's a way to do, but if you would go into party frames power, then you can disable that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
While we're here too, if you go to name, and you change it from name : medium to name : short, that should stop it from going outside of the frame again.
Wait, how can I'm not sure. How can I disable the level? You know, because
It's
the
Oh,
smart
name
battle.
very yeah.
What?
On the right
Sorry.
side. Here in the text format, yeah, just remove the last two of that. Should be
the last two. The last
Yeah,
two.
smart difficulty color just makes it red.
Ah. I know
Name
it.
very short would make it even shorter too. I forgot there's an extra. So if you
the
have
name you mean?
Yeah, so right now, name short will show up to 10 letters. If you want it even less than that, name : very short will show only 5 characters. And if you ever want to know about any of those tags, that's what the available tags section is on the settings. You can select available tags and then go through each of them, and it'll tell you what to type in and what that will get you.
That's nice, very nice. But I guess short is okay. Cause it even the 10 letters
fits in there, yeah.
And without the level, it just I think it's okay. And that doesn't matter. Yeah, those doesn't matter. Target frames doesn't matter. Okay, so we were by debuff, right? Where are they? No. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that basically helped very much. I don't know. Some other
Yay.
people have.
Anyone else
yeah.
have?
I guess I can work with this. Let's 4 and num rows. 2. Yeah. No. Yeah. 2. I don't know. Yeah, let's keep on. And then I just have to check if this is any good or not. Yeah. But thank you already.
Yeah,
And
and
thank you, Captain Bone Pricker, for your help. And
I'm not a captain yet. I'm still working on that.
Huh.
Captain soon.
Yeah, I'm still working on the
Captain, my
achievement.
Oh, Captain, my captain. Wasn't it the one movie with Robin Williams?
Yeah, Dead Poet Society.
Yeah.
I was asked about your mouse tracker, if that was just like something to make your mouse brighter, or if there was actually dynamic information being shown.
My mouse tracker or Siri's mouse tracker?
Whoever's
Or
screen we're looking at right now.
Oh, that's me. Sorry. Yes, I thought I was gonna ask Siri again what his mouse was, because that's what I thought you were talking about. My mouse is dynamic information. Right now, so like right now I'm on my Resto Druid, so the green leaf is my wild growth cooldown, the blue leaf is my dispel cooldown, and the little diamond in the middle is my Swiftman cooldown.
That's really cool.
That's
is that like
just
an add-on, or is that just like weak auras?
It's just
or,
weak
like...
auras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can basically do everything with weak aura. If
Yeah.
you have the knowledge and the know-how, okay, that's basically the same. But if you have the know-how, you can basically do everything with weak aura.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few things you can't do, but that's really not much. I don't know if you ever heard about the site, the Misty Tea House. It was a monk site, or is, I don't know if it still exists, and they did weak auras. Oh my god, it was just a giant circle customized to look like Asian Pandara and stuff, and there was everything in it. How much chi you have, your HP, your cooldowns, and just presented in a way what was really, really nice. So you can basically do everything with weak aura. Wrong.
Yeah.
So,
So for mine, you can do anything with them, and if you look at a lot of healers, they have like just like their spell icons on their mice. but I'm also a nerd, and I appreciate the lore of the game, and so I like progress textures instead, which is gonna be there's just a bunch of shapes you can choose from, and you can choose your own, and it'll show cooldowns in that way as opposed to just with like the default icon of the spell. And so I have like leaves for my druid because planty, and then I have like different shields and stuff for my paladin because paladin things. And so we'll go through that a lot more in like how to actually make them in the HUD workshop at the end of the series. Because we'll go into not just how to make like your standard rotational weak auras, but all of the additional bits that you can do as well.
Okay. Sadly, the Misty Tears isn't active anymore. Maybe Vago?
If no one else has any questions or anything for this one, I think I'm gonna hop up and see what's happening in the other channel, and if there's anyone with questions, comments, concerns up there.
Not right now. Not from us. At least.
Let me go see what's going on up in the other channel.
Is there? I haven't messed around too hard with it, but I haven't found a. Yeah, I haven't found a way. Which is actually one of the reasons why I like Voodoo a little more, just because.
For what?
Or in like HOTS on raid frames.
Yeah.
Aura indicators.
Oh, are you asking how to make those in LVI?
No. Just,
or
we were talking about potentially moving them, and I was saying I don't think you can move them. Like change their positioning on the frame.
In Voodoo, you can't. In LVI, you can. In Voodoo, you have like
Voodoo?
3 options. You have a couple
No,
options.
You way more than 3.
You have to like individually do them, but how you would do it in LVI is you would have to go into configure auras from, so you'd go unit frames into party frames into the aura indicator into configure auras, then you would select your spell, and after you select your spell, you can
move them all around.
Put in like the X and Y axes for wherever you want it to show.
Yeah, that's easier. Or that's the one thing that's easier about doing it with Voodoo, is you can just move them all as a fucking package.
Yeah. And you're right, it's the one thing that's easier.
Yeah. Singular.
Trinket. Your trinket's ready.
I love that.
Yeah, so I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but to speak about 2 of my favorite weak auras. This one, it will tell you whenever. The reason I downloaded it way back when is it'll tell you whenever someone hits a personal on you. And it'll, if someone bops you, it'll be like, bop. But if you're a healer, it'll also tell you whenever someone hits a healing cooldown, which was nice when I was pugging stuff as a healer because didn't want to overlap cooldowns or what have you.
Can you share that?
Yeah, sure. There is a file you have to download for all the sounds, but it's still hella useful. I put it in the UI workshop. And then he also has this universal tracker, which has like racial and potions and whatnot, which by default anchors to your player frame, but will also be like potion ready, bloodlust ready. And I just have this kind of out of the way because a lot of times I don't need. I mean, I suppose I could move it closer because
Stasis
like
consumed.
needing to see the exact timings on stuff, but a lot of times it's just more important to know. At least for me. It's like how I know that my Mistweaver hits me with the Chi Cocoon because it doesn't last long enough for me to see the spell effect.
Roar.
Did anyone in here have any questions,
Nerdy.
comments, concerns about any UI things before we close up the workshop for the day?
Other than I really enjoyed this. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to put this together.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed.
Yeah, it was helpful.
Well, then I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And if you do end up going through and changing things with your UI and you have any questions that come up as you go, feel free to put them in that UI, cleaning up your UI channel in Discord, and we'll try and help you out from there. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a lovely day.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
Yay.
Thanks very much. See you guys next time.
See ya. Bye. Okay.